Greetings, Ranger fans. Jake here for another edition of Database Rangers Power Reviews. We take a look back at our classic episodes of Database Rangers Power Reviews as we count down the 100 weeks to the 100th and final episode. Thank you to all of you who are currently joining us in the chat. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, Jenny. Welcome, Scott. Good to see you. Congratulations, Jenny, on school officially being over for you. I am now wrapped with classes on my end. I do still have one more week of grading and meetings and that sort of thing to wrap up the school year, and then summer vacation will officially kick off next Friday, and I am going to be diving headfirst into the 3-part year 3 finale. The grand finale of Power Reviews, the 3-part finale of this series that I've been working on for the past decade. I'm finally going to be working on the finale. I've been doing some prep. I've been messaging some actors to get some filming taken care of. I've been looking over my scripts to try and organize things. I'm looking forward to recording some voiceovers tomorrow and delving into full-on filming in the coming days. There's already stuff that had already been filmed months in advance, but now it's going to be digging into the bulk of it and really trying to make this thing come together. 98 in particular is going to be a lot. My goal is to try and get 98 out by the end of July, but that is a tall order. That is a very tall order. A lot is going to be happening in 98. 99 and 100 obviously will be having a lot as well. There's just certain things that still need to be completed before 98 can be done, that don't need to be worked on for 99 and 100, which will be delving much more into concluding things. 98 is going to be kind of bringing a whole bunch of stuff to a head. With regards to the show, I know there to the actual series of Power Rangers. I know the big news released this week was the announcement that Jenny Klein is going to be the new showrunner for the television series that is going to be a part of the new Jonathan Entwistle cinematic Power Rangers universe. We still have no new information past that. Jenny Klein has worked on a number of other series. I believe most recently was, and feel free to correct me if I'm misremembering. I believe she was showrunner on The Thing About Pam. I think it's the name of it, with Renee Zellweger. So that's big name actress. Apparently a series where she played it was like a thriller series where she was a murderer or something. Very not in the vein of Power Rangers, which I find very interesting. Her credits do not seem to veer towards children's television, which does reinforce the early interpretations that the new series that Jonathan Entwistle is kind of spearheading is going to be targeted towards a different audience, likely a more mature and adult audience. So that is fascinating, especially since we still have no information on what is happening with the current series that is currently in its 29th season, with the second season of Dino Fury. What will be happening next year for the 30th season, if anything. We still, the only thing I think we've received thus far have been those little casting notices from months ago that something was going to be filmed in an abbreviated time frame in New Zealand next year, or later this year, I think. But still no word on what it is. No title, no announcements. No reports even on if the current team is involved with it. So still no knowledge of what is going to be happening with that. Ostensibly, the Jonathan Entwistle series won't involve the current um, production team in any way. We don't know, or at the very least, we have no evidence that they would be involved. They haven't made any statements to that regard. To our understanding, it's still completely divided in that regard. But I'm hoping we get more news on what these projects are going to be uh, with regards to the ostensible movie that Jonathan Entwistle is working on with Brian Edward Hill writing, what this new television series will be with Jenny Klein showrunning, and what this 30th anniversary show might be, and whether or not Simon Bennett and Becca Barnes and Alan Dale are involved with that or not, and whether we will actually have returning actors for a reunion, or what the 30th anniversary will be. So with all that so up in the air, I still don't know what that means for this channel for 2023. We are nearly halfway through 2022, and I still have no idea what 2023 is going to be. I have some ideas for what I think I might want to do with this channel, but I'm really going to see how finishing this series impacts me, because frankly, 97 nearly murdered me. I'm not going to lie. It was a massive episode, extremely long. I felt like it still went along at a good clip. It wasn't that it was incredibly ambitious from a effects or action standpoint. I feel very good about that episode, with the exception of a few little editing errors here and there, as always happens. Um, but between my computer dying for 2.5 weeks, and then me getting knocked out by all those vasovagal syncope episodes, I just had a really rough time getting that one out. And I'm not gonna lie, I was sick again earlier this week. Shortly after finishing the episode, I was just so completely wiped out, and I really do need to work on uh, paying better attention to my health. I don't know what that means with regards to my current attempts to finish the series, or what that means for my intentions for this channel after the series concludes. Just that it's something that I really do need to make more of a priority, and I intend to. Welcome to Dyrano and Nightwing Josh and Daniel. Good to see you all. Congratulations on your senior superlatives, Jenny. Being unforgettable and talkative. I hope that you think of me the same way. So, speaking of which, I have probably been chattering long enough, and we should be diving into tonight's commentary. But before we do, let's not forget our 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, number 1, say it with me, chat, Black Lives Matter. Number 2, say it with me, chat, fascism is bad. And number 3, say it with me, chat, superheroes are fun. So let's dive in to another edition with our favorite superhero, one Mr. Database Ranger, as we explore episode 83 of Database Ranger's Power Reviews, our review of Power Rangers RPM, episode 18, Belly of the Beast.
Previously on Power Review.
But Database Guys, we've got a Power Ranger on our side.
You were sent to infiltrate Alphabet Soup, which
This-
crossed over to our world.
This episode, in many ways, is really going to be the one that is where year 3 kind of starts in many regards. I feel like, although we had the year 3 premiere, 83 and 85 changed the game to such an extent that they almost feel like they're, that they're the real start of year 3 in certain respects. Like 81, 82, and 83 all kind of flow together to lead into everything.
Greetings, Ranger fans.
Uh-huh.
Welcome to the Going Away
I-
Party.
I forgot that we open up on Zagger. That makes me happy. I love that Frankie plays such a major a major role in this episode. Like we've been slowly just having him in the background up until now, and this is where he actually is a major player in the show, in the plot. We had the return of Zagger just 2 episodes ago in '81 when he came back from the Moore-Posner's house. And it's kind of crazy that Alphabet Soup has been, the primary antagonists of the show for 2 straight years at this point. It reminds me of how some other, big 5-year-long shows have kind of done things. Specifically, you had in Babylon 5 there were the Shadows, and they were a major antagonist. But then for the final arc of the series, they weren't. Without getting too much into spoilers. And same thing with Breaking Bad. You had Gus Fring, who was a major antagonist for multiple seasons, and then was no longer a presence in the 5th season, where the real core of it was bringing the character arc to a head. Here, we're transitioning over from Alphabet Soup being the primary antagonist into the true primary antagonist of the series with the landlord.
It would be a torrential downpour unlike anything we've ever
and
seen.
This is
And that arc. I don't think I like this metaphor.
This is insane. I mean, we just blew through a year earlier today.
And that will seem like nothing more than a temporal hiccup.
And that whole speech from Dr. K, I remember being a bit of a beast.
That sounds bad.
Like, all of how you see how insistent K is and how much energy there is behind that. If I recall correctly, MJ was getting really sick of going through that whole torrential downpour metaphor at that point, because that was just such a long stretch to explain what was happening with the temporal storm.
Armored ship, impending doom. Sound familiar?
Of course.
What's going on? We've got a plan.
I love that Database and K have this shorthand because they both know RPM. And that's why this episode had to be included.
Wait, are you saying the K
This
are
is-
a ranger team?
Oh,
No.
Would have thought that would have come up before now.
Can we please
I also love how many little things in year 3 are basically amount to, oh, I thought that would have come up before now. I thought we would have explained this by now. Like, and that's something that I've had to pay careful attention to. I believe I've done pretty well with it, but it is tough to keep track of exactly which characters know which things.
Thank you. Now, first things first. Agent Y, I trust you can get us the location
This
and
is the
transportation
only moment where where Guy and Mayo are really aware of Kay's past in that respect. And it's kind of reinforcing that they don't know much about her, which will come into play in 93 and 95.
I'm sure it's just my imagination.
Please focus. We need you to clear a path to the ship.
And of course, we had to have the parallel between the Moore-Posners and Jem and Jenna there. Too many people have made reference to it for me not to bring it up.
Excellent. What about me? How can I help? You're our backup in case things escalate. Great. You need me hacking or spellcasting? We need your account. What, Zagger? Quickly, please. Agent Y? Right. Okay.
I love that exchange so much.
As the Rangers prepare to roll
You need
out,
me hacking or spellcasting?
plan to develop
We need your cat.
completing the new and improved Sawbot Generation 16. Fully equipped
Um,
with all the data that the Sawbot
well, here's
Generation
one-
15
Yeah,
collected
when it
before
comes to
its
DB
destruction.
telling Guy and Mayo
Because
about
he assured
the
they
RPM
were
Rangers,
skeptical to I-7,
like,
he totally meant to do
one
that.
of the big things with the show is that there's always stuff happening, and the characters don't really get downtime between episodes to talk about things. especially with all the temporal distortions.
Alerting them to the
So,
arrival of a human raiding party
you know,
in Sector 17.
at no point would they have said anything during year one, because they weren't communicating during year one. So it would have had to have taken place during year two. And I mean, during like almost half of year two. Well, let's see. The Winter Trilogy, nobody was around. They were all separate from DB.
Wait a second. That thing is an LCD screen?
Of course. What do you think it was?
I don't know.
I love we finally addressed what the black.
Because the couch is facing the television.
I love finally addressing what the black thing is next to Kay's workstation. We've just never addressed it before now.
Interdimensional rift orbiting Earth. In order to do this, it is imperative that we reach the ship before it
And this whole presentation is also just kind of great. And once again, you're hearing the echo of my voice because that was filmed during that time when we were in the middle of moving.
Don't be ridiculous. Your Zagger will be perfectly fine. Now,
Oh, since we had to have Kay walk in and remove the collar from Zagger's neck while Mayo is holding Zagger, that was not something that was going to work as a composite. So I forget if it was me or Dave. I think it was Dave was actually the stand-in for Mayo there, just wearing MJ's hoodie. So yeah, all of my solo lines are delivered separately from everybody else. This was filmed a month later after I'd filmed with everybody. This was also a tricky thing, a tricky bit lighting-wise, because I was just starting to use the umbrella lights here, which I hadn't really done before that. So the lighting is a little bit wonky in this scene. I look normal at this point. Guy's shadow is a little bit weird, but the lighting here is a little bit darker behind them, but it's inconsistent. And meanwhile, the Morpossners are just smiling because they're clueless. But I believe that shot of everybody standing with the Morpossners, of me and Dave standing with Justin and Sarah and MJ sitting, was filmed right around the same time that we did the rest of the party for episode 81. But you can see behind me right now, there's no furniture. And that's because we'd moved everything out at that point. Everybody's...
This is going to be so fun!
We had to film the Morpossners with Dave there to make sure we had him with his shirt. But I love that we have even Zagger give a little meow, and that was a careful take we had to do. We had to give Frankie a little squeeze to get the little meow. He was okay though. And you're right, Kay did let loose some clues, but there was just never time to think about it. Oh, and that area of Alphabet Soup is the Morpossner, is Justin and Sarah's actual basement, because we needed to get that get this shot in, and it was the easiest way to do it in a short time frame.
Okay. All the Rangers once again morph to stealthily take down the Grinders.
So at this point, this stuff was filmed in like 2017 now, because I was rushing to get the last few bits done. That shot of me outside of Alphabet Soup running around, that was in the middle of December, and I was so I was running around a few days before releasing the episode. In the freezing cold, you could see all the snow. Running around the college campus in the Phantom armor. It was carrying the camera because I didn't have anyone else filming with me. That was ridiculous.
You know what to do?
Yep. I'll take care of the ship. You 3 4.
Aw.
Let's get moving then.
Poor Frankie. He had to go in the kitty carrier for a few of his shots. Frankie was such a trooper for this
They're
episode.
quickly set upon by grinders, with their old friend the Sawbot making a guest appearance for round 2.
Well, I mean,
If I remember right,
it's reasonable that
be right this way.
they would anticipate that Kay knew something about the RPM Rangers, but the idea that she led the team could easily be a surprise to them. Because neither of them had watched RPM. Guy was from a universe where there were no RPM Rangers.
What was the signal again?
But Ventrix isn't happy.
Oh, and this bit with the Morpossners playing with Mitch's tie, that was specifically, explicitly shot because I had filmed shots with the Morpossners on the ship already, and I realized that we'd forgotten Justin's tie, so we had to have a moment where his tie went away. I also love this location here. Like, that's a part of the college campus that I'd never filmed at before, but I always wanted to. And it's this whole space exploration display hallway. It's like it's in honor of an old alumni who was an engineer in the space program. So there's all these cool little space displays, and I wanted to make sure to use that for the launching area of Alphabet Soup.
What's the status, Dr. C?
Oh, everything is coming along swimmingly. Nearly all
And I love, kudos to Steve for this scene. Kudos to Steve for this scene. Because he had to stand there for so long, holding that plexiglass in front of him. And here's our introduction to Peggy as the second secretary.
But before Dylan can make his life or death
Also, my running up against the door and banging on the door is so weak because I was so nervous about, like, knocking it loose. But yes, Zagger is named after Ziggy from, well,
So what should I do?
Zagger, the idea is that Zagger is, is a parallel to Ziggy in terms of naming schemes. But he is not named specifically after Freddy.
Maybe this excursion isn't such a loss after all.
Thank you, sir. Now let's bring our people home.
Meanwhile,
And we've got the directors launching. Also, one thing that I find very funny with regards to Dr. C, who we saw briefly a moment ago, is that since year 2, Chris had grown a goatee, and I decided to let him keep the goatee. Because I found it funny, because this is when Alphabet Soup will team up with DB's crew, and I like the idea that he starts wearing a goatee after he stops being evil, and that was just an amusing little a little flip on perspective to me.
He decides to ignore Flynn's claim that they got
But yes, with regards to, the characters communicating between episodes, DB was gone for the Winter Trilogy. Everybody was separated for the Summer Saga. DB was evil and kidnapping everybody during the Super Mega Fall. So really, it was just the 8 episodes of the spring that they had that they even had a chance to talk. I like the effect for the signal, but it's unfortunate that it messes around with the compositing that I had with the Morpossners. Because I did have to composite them in because, they teleport in. I just wish I had been a little bit more careful on the scene there. Every now and again, I spot those little issues. And I love this shot of the ship launching. It's such a nice little simple thing, and it's such a parallel to the Doomsday Whalezord in RPM. And I really like how just simple things like little lens flares positioned underneath where the rocket boosters are give that effect of the rockets launching.
We know. We're on our way. To the engine room. Just in case.
In case of what?
Yeah, we had already shot this before we shot the bit
In case we don't
in
succeed.
the Morpossners basement. So that's why we had to have them playing with the tie to remove it from the scene. is also just a solid episode of RPM.
Just as the Doombot
Like, RPM deserved to have multiple episodes covered across the course of Power Reviews, just because it's so integrated into the story of Power Reviews in so many regards. But this is one of those episodes where it's really less that it's an episode that I necessarily wanted to talk about, even though it is the culmination of a lot of plot arcs for RPM. And it's more so one I felt like I was really obligated to include due to its inherent parallels to the story.
What's the deal with the cat? I have no idea.
And I love how R Beta has now just been looped into the cast now. Because she cares about our Alpha. They have a tight relationship. And that's sort of her driving motivator in the series. And we hint at some of her backstory in the Year 2 finale when Guy first wins them over. And also, we're all on the ship now. We're on the ship! The new set is fully in play, and that's just exciting. I built it for Grid Defense with the intention of being able to adapt it into Power Reviews. With the small tweaks of the little black trim, because I realized that it felt a little too flat during Grid Defense. So I wanted to kind of make it pop a little bit more, so that's why I added the black trim that we were lacking during Grid Defense.
Until they suddenly realize that there is no escape, coming in close for a steamy embrace.
I'm not going to mention. I'm not going to say what's coming up in the final 3 episodes of DRPR. There's a lot happening. I can't promise that everything will get touched on, but I can tell you that a lot will be happening.
Except for a small key on a chain, much like the one that winds his locket. A clue that his long search is still far from over.
But yeah, one of the... Oh, and here we have our little engine room.
Well, we're nearing the rift. If you're going to do something, I suggest you do it now.
What on earth are you? Got it!
This is an episode all about snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. In many ways, it's a turning point for the season. To be fair, a big part of that...
I also like how that little wave effect kind of ended up working out with the waves throughout the ship.
Before veteran writer Judd Lynn,
but yeah, I've been intending for so long to do this arc, and when it occurred to me that I could do a parallel by having Zagger be utilized as the base DNA to convert the ship for their use, I'm just like, oh, I have to do this. I have to have it be a cat ship. Especially since MJ had that little cat robot on the laptop from so early on at Kay's workstation. So this was a detail I hadn't had necessarily from the beginning. I always knew that it was going to be the ship, that they were going to be on the ship for the final arc. It just took me a little while to decide that, they're going to get control of the ship by using the same technique as they did in RPM, and it's going to be Zagger. It's going to be a cat Zord instead of a whale Zord.
Combined with the returned and enhanced threat of the Sawbot, the looming inevitability of the Doomsday weapon.
Yes, and that is the idea with R Beta. She does see R Alpha as a sister. And it's just, and that's how they see each other, because each of them lost a sister on their respective worlds. And that's sort of the core of the relationship, that they are sort of surrogate sisters for one another. And she just wants her to be safe.
Instead, choosing to sidestep them with good intentions and plot convenience. And beyond that, even though reprogramming the Doomsday weapon makes lots of sense as a resolution.
One of the big things with the ship is, as you can tell in retrospect, and I'm sure some of you probably guessed in advance, I had to design the ship with transformation in mind. So this ship was designed with the multiple forms in mind. You can see where like the little hinge points and pivot points are supposed to be, and I also made sure, while also having little touches like the base form doesn't have the ears that the cat form does.
Things will never be quite the same.
What did you just do to this ship?
And I love that of course, I had to credit Frankie as Zagger. He deserves it. He was a trooper for this episode. But yes, you will be seeing. I spent way too much time modeling that ship for you not to see more detail of it. I will put it that way. I feel like I could have put more work into the texture. I still feel like the ship itself, lighting wise, texture wise, always feels a little flat to me, and that's a point that I feel like I could have done better on. But I feel like the overall design of the ship, I feel works, especially with regards to what we've now learned about it from episode 97. Yeah, the what did you do to the ship? Yeah, you do. That does pop up on the previous one a fair bit. Where they convert the ship into its cat form. Yeah, so this was sort of an episode that I really kind of put out there as this is going to change the show. The show is different now. And that happens a lot, honestly. It happens a fair bit. Like after, after like the first 20 episodes, the show changed into more of an ensemble series. Then after episode 32, it changed into the sort of thriller mystery series as Alphabet Soup got more involved. And then it started playing around with the multiverse and action and more and more locations. And now it's shifted entirely off of Earth, which was a new direction. I knew I wanted to do this for year 3. From the moment I came up with year 3, this was what I knew I wanted to do, because I wanted it to follow a similar trajectory to how the show operates. And Power Rangers evolved into Power Rangers in Space during the course of their first 6-year run of story. So I wanted to go to space. I wanted to have a space opera as my final arc. And so that was the goal. So it's crazy how these three episodes came one right after the other, considering how spread out the rest of year 3 has been. And a lot of that is because there was so much stuff I was working on before I started releasing it. Like the model of the ship, I was working on that all throughout that fall, before I finally got to work releasing episodes 81 and 82. I put a lot of work into that ship, more work than I feel like the look of the ship doesn't accurately reflect the amount of work that went into it. And a big part of that is because my texturing is lackluster. I would have loved to have something that's more of a paneled, like circuitry looking texture, but time is a thing. So it is a very matte texture, unfortunately. I wanted to, and I'm just like, okay, gotta make sure it gets the job. Can it do what I need it to do? Can it take the form it needs to take? Does it have the coloration and the patterning that it does? And I also wanted to make sure that it accurately reflected the look of the RPM Zords. It had to have the big eyes. It had to have that sort of chibi kind of shape to it. I wanted it to look like something that would not feel out of place with the go on to Zord aesthetics. And I feel like we hit that. I feel pleased with that overall aesthetic. Even if I feel like it did come out a little cartoony and didn't come out as well integrated as I would have liked, I still feel like I hit that aesthetic I was aiming for. And at this point also, just like, a lot of my CG was not feeling wonderfully integrated from the perspective of lighting, because I was trying to move through it so quickly and not really emphasizing too much on the smooth integration like I would have liked. I'm just double checking to make sure I didn't miss any questions along the way. I know I've been digging really into the ship itself, because it's the big thing that happens in this episode. But there's also just a lot of other stuff that's just kind of coming to a head and shifting gears. This is the first appearance of Peggy as the secretary in the series, which we don't really get to address until the next episode. Dr. C is back with the goatee. We see the agents in cryo, specifically poor Steve as Agent H. And we get to have we hear from the directors over the voiceovers, etc. MJ's doing fine. They just don't make appearance during the streams, because a lot of times RJ is still going to bed while I'm setting up, and we want to make sure that one of us is available in case they need anything. So it's just being parents. We want to make sure that at least one parent is available in case child requires assistance, because we didn't want to have we didn't want to have to worry about either one of us running off in the middle of reacting to things, which is why we chose to discontinue the live reactions. Every now and again, we will get an appearance. It's all a matter of if MJ feels like dropping by. That's about it. It's fine. I understand. It's. Thank you for correcting yourself. So, yeah, this was a big change up, and in many ways, it was a necessary one. Not just because of where I wanted the story to go, but also just we weren't going to be in that apartment anymore. And this was always kind of a backup for if we moved away from that apartment. I wanted to have something that we could use as an alternative. And that's the set, which could be set up in whichever location, so long as there's room for it, which fortunately there is. It's definitely a tight space here, which makes for challenges. So this was this was the last of the string of episodes where, like, the beginning of it was filmed in 2016 in the old apartment, and the rest of it was filmed in 2017 in the new apartment. Oh yeah, sure, that's fine. So everything that was filmed with the ship, that was filmed after I stopped working at the school. Because we only lived there from like September through July. Those early scenes were filmed in early September of 2016, and then I think the last thing was me running around outside the building, which was another thing on the college campus. I love that giant building. I'm like, that is the building that the spaceship is launching out of. Me running around there, that was, late December of 2017. I think that was when students were on winter break. I wasn't teaching at the time, but I was tutoring. But I think that was late December at that point. I had already released 81 and 82, I think, by the time that I filmed that scene where I was running around outside, which was just such an absurd thing to be doing. I think that might have even been after Christmas. It was that late in December. That's how late that shot was. So I had to go to the college, change into cardboard armor, run around with a tripod over my shoulder, set it up across the street, or set it up on the sidewalk, run past, like, whoosh, and then pack up and leave again. And, like, because I didn't have, like, a place to change, I had to run up that giant steep hill, trying not to slide on icy steps, etc. That was just ridiculous. But I made it. I made it through. It was another one of those episodes where it came out just past New Year's. Like, I'd wanted it to be New Year's Eve, and it came out New Year's Day. Late New Year's Day, if I recall correctly. I sadly had to miss Dave's wonderful New Year's brunch and the New Year's Eve party from our friends Rachel and Chris. Just because I was working so hard on that episode, and I wanted it to be done so badly, because I had said it was going to be released New Year's Eve, and I had to work through the whole thing. I'm glad you enjoyed the Forever Red fake out, and yes, Forever Red had to be tackled at some point. So yes, 97 was always intended to be the Forever Red episode. I always knew, or at least ever since I figured out that I was going to run to 100 episodes, I always knew what 96 through 100 were going to be. I always knew the final 5 episodes. I knew which 5 episodes need to be addressed in terms of pivotal episodes in Power Rangers history. So, Fighting Spirit, Forever Red, 3 more to go for the finale. So I look forward to hopefully being able to start announcing those soon. I know people have presumptions, but I'm hoping that you enjoy the presentation of those final episodes. The trilogy finale, the final farewell of the series. It's been a long time in the making, long time in the works, and it's really wild to realize that we're finally there. That I'm actually now, all I have left is the finale, the 3-part finale. Three episodes, 3 videos to do, 3 massive videos to do, but it's the finale. And it's been so far away for so long that it's really wild to recognize that that's where I am now. And I filmed parts of it. Characters are wrapped. And I'm contacting other people to wrap their characters as well. Like, we're really at the end. And yes, I do pick on Operation Overdrive with Power Reviews. It was very much at the time my least favorite Power Rangers season, for a number of reasons, as I've gone into before. And that's the reason that it's one of the very few seasons that does not get additional review. I figured Way Back When was enough to cover my feelings on the series, and it didn't really feel like there was going to be any other appropriate times to address it. Some people are theorizing on Zordon's final lines. Fun fact, I almost missed filming that. I accidentally skipped over that line when I was doing my voiceovers initially, so I had to go back and re-record that one when I was doing my final edits. But this episode here, I really enjoy. I really enjoy how a number of bits of Year 3 are just tackling these tiny little things that people hadn't really asked, but just felt like I wanted to address before moving on. Like, in the previous episode, we addressed how Kay set up dummy counts for everyone so that they could afford their apartments. In this episode, we finally addressed what I just had a black curtain there just because I thought it worked aesthetically at the beginning, and then like, I need to have an explanation for what this thing actually is that appears and disappears. It's a computer screen. It's a computer screen, and she uses it once to get everybody together for the plan to leave the apartment and go on the ship. And yes, we finally got the hairline reveal, which I said was happening. Hopefully it did not disappoint. I hope that you guys like the explanation of Database Ranger's hairline. And I will admit that some of the conversations addressed in 97 were adjusted a little bit in light of the comic books. I specifically Edge of Darkness, not so much Power Rangers Universe. But I did have to tweak a few things to bring that conversation in line with what was established through Edge of Darkness. And I feel like nothing in Universe really disrupted that, because I'd written that scene after Edge of Darkness, but before Power Rangers Universe, and I didn't have to change anything about that scene as a result of Power Rangers Universe, which was a relief. So yeah, people are coming up with some theories on what the final episodes will be. So we'll have to see. We will have to see. I'm going to neither confirm nor deny any current assumptions on what may be coming up next. I can just tell you there's going to be a lot. Script-wise, I'm pretty sure I need to I forget exactly how long the scripts are by comparison to 97, but they're going to be long. They were definitely the longest episodes before I wrote 97, but I did write 97 after. I wrote 97 after I wrote 98, and I didn't actually check the page counts to see if 97 was longer than 98 or not. I know 99 is longer than 98. That is fair. Yeah, Power Rangers Universe, I find it really fascinating that they played up that same adversarial dynamic that I had introduced in Power Reviews. Because, like, while the Phantom Ranger was definitely, engaged in things during Power Rangers in Space, he never went head to head with the big bad. He went up against Divatox. He went up against the Machine Empire. But it wasn't until Power Reviews that we established this adversarial relationship. And then Power Rangers Universe went and did the same thing for his origin story. And I really gotta wonder if that was just a complete coincidence, or people have been following the show. Maybe they couldn't have been following it. That's one of the things, though. They couldn't have known, because 94 came out after Edge of Darkness. 94 came out. Like, they must have been already working on Power Rangers Universe before 94 came out. They couldn't have known, right? Right? I don't know. It's just all wild to me. Whenever I end up hitting on the same wavelength as, like, the actual licensed products of the franchise. Like, it's just like the parallels between Grid Defense and Beast Morphers. It's really funny and a nice reminder that I am, like, in tune with this franchise that I've been obsessively studying for the last, 3 decades. Please give me a job. I do like my job teaching right now, but like, please give me a job. Because that obviously I do like teaching, but Power Rangers would obviously be the dream job, as I've said plenty of times before. Yeah, yeah. There's going to be there's going to be some feels. We're going to have some moments. This is going to be my attempt to kind of bring everything together and bring everything to a head. And I'm hoping that I can deliver, and I'm hoping that all of you are here for this ride, because it's almost done. And it's also really ironic to be talking about that in the commentary for this episode, where this string of events really kicked off, where we entered where we shifted over and kicked off our journey on the ship. And now I'm working on the conclusion of that journey. And that's really wild to me. Belly of the Beast, it's not... Effects-wise, I don't think it's as polished as it could be from a CG standpoint. But I really do love it for a few little things that it touches on, as it's really, bringing characters back into play after the year 2 finale, and changing up the direction of the show is really the big thing that that makes 83 have such a special place in my heart. It started a whole new phase of the show. And one that I thought was going to make my life a little easier, because I'm like, hey, no more having to run around to other locations. My location is right here, where I need to regularly move around giant walls in a very small space all the time. This was not as much of an improvement as I thought. Filming became so much more difficult starting with this episode, because suddenly, not only did I have to set up the camera, but lights and the set for every shot that I did from here on out. Just about. Yeah. I certainly hope that Phantom gets a break after episode 100. We will have to wait and see. But all that said, it is getting a little late in the evening. Thank you for joining with me for my rambling. And let us not forget our remaining 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, number 1, say with me, chat, love is love. Number 2, say with me, chat, trans rights are human rights. And number 3, say with me, chat, robots are cool. And I hope that everyone is having a happy and safe Pride Month also. Just happy Pride to all of you. And I hope that those of you who are wrapping up your school year have a wonderful summer vacation. I look forward to starting mine next week. And happy Juneteenth to those who celebrate this weekend. And happy Father's Day. This is going to be my second Father's Day. I need to keep reminding myself of that. Oh, and Zagger's collar, that was just Frankie's collar. That was just Frankie's regular collar. All right. So, thank you all again for joining me. Have a great night, have a great weekend, have a great week, and until next time, farewell, Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.